welcome to Artists United Television. I'm Holly Million, the founder and executive director of Artists United, the worldwide movement of artists in all disciplines. We have this show, Artists United Television, to feature unique and diverse members of the Artists United community and the information that they have to share that's of benefit to artists everywhere. Artists United is a worldwide movement of artists in all disciplines, the largest network of artists in all disciplines the world has ever seen. Currently, we have 32,000 members signed up worldwide, and we've set a new goal of signing up 100,000 artists as members by the end of 2019. The organization is off and running. We've been approved by the IRS. We have our own nonprofit status. Our programs have been launched. And we are also building an online platform to enable the members of the Artists United community to connect with each other no matter where they are. Our mission is to empower individual artists to create excellent art and to unite all artists to create social change. We are an artist-led movement for the economic and political empowerment of artists. And I'm very excited to be here with you today to present my good friend, Thomas Schlesinger. And the information that he has to share with us today will be valuable to all kinds of artists, but in particular, I know it will be valuable to filmmakers, writers, actors, and others who are storytellers. Tom changed my life. He was a consultant on at least 2 of the films that I produced or directed, and he's a very deep soul. He's on the advisory board of Artists United. He was on our inaugural board of directors. So without further ado, I want to welcome you, Tom, to Artists United Television.
Thanks, Holly. Very happy to be here, and I always love talking with you. So it's an added pleasure.
I think it'll be a lot of fun today, and I always gain new information from you, Tom. So this is going to be fun. But I think I didn't do you justice with that intro. It was very, very brief. I'd love if you could share more with the audience about yourself and what you do.
Sure. I think the simple version of it is that I'm a storyteller, and my storytelling is expressed through screenwriting and co-producing, teaching, and consulting. And for me, that what's been so valuable about all of the experiences that I've had is that everything that I've experienced along the way has been a parallel journey to whatever story that I'm working on. So for example, when I first started, I went to UCLA Film School and graduated. I had 2 scripts that, big stars like Clint Eastwood were reading. Everything was going great, except for nothing happened, and I just kind of collapsed.
Whoops.
Yeah, so until I started to understand really how stories function, and especially when you look at the archetypal level of stories, it was the full catastrophe for me. And I was working at a downtown hotel in Chicago as a bellman, having to wear this orange and brown polyester uniform, and just as kind of low as I could possibly go. And I was there, we used to stand in front of these posts waiting for for me, it was usually some Hollywood producer that I would, have to take his bags up to his room. But I was just standing there bored one day, and I turned to the guy next to me, and I told him some of the things that I was doing, with screenwriting and storytelling. And he said, well, why don't you come to this lecture tonight? I think you'll really like it. And the lecture turned out to be a lecture by Joseph Campbell. So that started kind of opening up all these doors for me, and eventually going through many different kinds of experiences like this, I started to realize that what I was experiencing was really a part of being on the journey as a storyteller. And that if I really, like Joseph Campbell would say, if you really learn to love your fate, that even the things that seem to be the most disastrous have very much a positive impact for you.
Wow. That's a wonderful story. And of course, the way you answered the question about yourself is a beautiful story. I was so engaged. And of course, Joseph Campbell, for those if there's anybody out there who's not familiar with Joseph Campbell, is the author of The Hero with 1,000 Faces, as well as The Power of Myth. He was in the PBS series with Bill Moyers many years ago. It was a wonderful series. But the storytelling, and the hero aspect of it, I know it's very important with your work, Tom. So how did going to the lecture with Joseph Campbell end up translating into the work that you're doing now?
Well, it was completely eye-opening because Joseph Campbell had a way to kind of integrate science with history, with religion, and I'd never really seen this kind of humanistic approach to life as Joseph Campbell was presenting. And from Joseph Campbell, I started working more closely with a mythologist, one of his colleagues, a woman named Jean Houston. And so that initially I just had this desire to be a screenwriter because I knew my inner calling was I wanted to do something that could move people and help transform them as I had been transformed by watching certain movies. So starting out with Joseph Campbell and then working more closely with Jean Houston, I just realized that all the experiences that I was having were really kind of grist for the mill. And that when we go on these creative journeys, we're on a journey that parallels the journey that our characters are going on. And if we're really kind of true to that journey, meaning if we allow ourselves to kind of feel what we're feeling and write from the place where we're at, then ultimately the audience is going to go on that same emotional journey. So what I learned from Joseph Campbell and Jean Houston and now Maureen Murdoch, who wrote the book The Heroine's Journey, is really when you apply these kind of archetypal patterns to storytelling, that stories are really like an ecosystem. And they're not just something you see on a screen, or there's not just something that you read in a book. And the ecosystem, and this is kind of the beauty of what I learned from these great teachers like Maureen and Jean and Joseph Campbell, is that really stories are an ecosystem of the storyteller, the story, and the audience. And so while you're writing and while you're developing your stories, you're already on a journey, not just with your characters, but with your audience, which means that in the creative journey, and especially when we look at the feminine, like Maureen talks so much about, when you look at the intuition and instincts and the deep kind of feminine feeling levels, that literally you're already resonating with your audience while you're writing. And so just about everything that I've looked at in terms of how stories function is really based on the audience's experience while they're watching the film or while they're reading the book. So what that means is that you can read a lot of books about structure and what has to happen when and where and how and all that. But for me, the structure is really based on the order that the audience is feeling things and learning things. So what really kind of grew out of my work with Joseph Campbell and Jean Houston, and then getting deeply into Maureen Murdoch's approach of the heroine's journey, is this idea of the story ecosystem. And that is something that it's challenging every day, and it's also kind of opens up new horizons every day.
So are you working with the heroine's journey in some new way? I know you've done some work in the past, workshops and et cetera. How does this apply, and what information are you sharing?
Yes, well, I'm not an expert, certainly, like Maureen and many people on the heroine's journey itself, but from really getting deeply immersed in Maureen's book, which is just a groundbreaking book, which actually kind of was a result of when she and I were studying with Joseph Campbell around the same time. She challenged Joseph Campbell and said, I don't really feel like the hero's journey really applies to the rites of passage of women. And that was her kind of call to adventure then, to kind of start to map out the different journey for women. And so when I look at that, it's not only about female protagonists, but it's really about the feminine journey. And in a sense, you can say that the heroine's journey really kind of begins when the hero's journey ends. In that when we experience outer success, and we kind of maybe experience more and more success, as Maureen points out in her book, a lot of times there's this kind of vacuous kind of feeling inside. like we have the outer success, but it's not really gratifying. And this is really kind of when the heroine's journey begins. And kind of in a nutshell, the idea is that in order to be successful in our outer world, which is an outer kind of masculine, chauvinistic world, you just have to turn on the TV to see what that's like.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I've been watching the TV lately. That's for sure.
it's ethics disconnecting with our inner feminine. So everything is kind of out in the outer physical world, and all of these kind of masculine energies like rivalry and competition and being in a hierarchy where you have to rise to the top. All of that kind of gets to a certain point where we're not really connected to the feminine, or you can just say we're not connected to our inner world. And that's really, for me, that's when the heroine's journey really starts. And the way that that applies to film stories is um, the heroine's journey in film is mostly about family drama or stories about surrogate families. But in general, I would say that in looking at the heroine's journey and how it applies to storytelling, I would say that the heroine's journey is like it's a search to find your authentic self and the truth of who you are, then expressing that truth to a supportive community. And so it's really going into our inner world of vulnerabilities and fears and woundedness to kind of find out who we are underneath all of the ego wrappings that we have. But it's not just that. In the hero's journey, it's a big part of that, of facing your shadow and so on. But for me, the one of the great one of the main aspects of the heroine's journey is that then we express who we are in a community. And this is exactly why I love Artists United, because that's what Artists United is about. And so you can say that in the heroine's journey, when we look at our everyday lives and we look at the stories that we're telling, it's a movement from a perspective of being self-centered to being group-centered. And it's something that, that we need more and more of in our society right now.
I feel like it's the perfect time for that in our society. So, if I'm understanding correctly, Tom, tell me if I'm interpreting this correctly, just to also to get your feedback. So, what I understand of the hero's journey is it would be an example of that would be Perseus going out to fight the Gorgon and coming back with her head, right? So, there's sort of an outward quest or journey, a series of tests that are passed, gatekeepers that you get by. You're facing your fears and you have to muster your courage. You go out and do the act, you come back, or you find the Holy Grail, like in the King Arthur legends. You go back, find the Grail, bring it back, and there's much celebration and you're a hero. So you're saying in the heroine's journey, there's really nowhere, you're not going anywhere except inward, and that what you're discovering there are simply the truths about yourself, and but there's still gateways to pass through, gatekeepers, and it's your own shadow that's in fact what must be conquered. Is that how you would interpret it?
Yeah, I would just kind of I would just look at that in a slightly different way, because the heroine's journey is really about, it's a journey to reconnect with the feminine. And once we reconnect with the feminine, our inner world experience, and as we have senses in the outer world, we learned, as you well know, that we have senses in our inner world as well. But it's not like the hero's journey is an outer world and the heroine's journey is an inner world adventure. In the heroine's journey, once you reconnect with the inner feminine, or once we, in a sense, start to reconnect and resonate with our souls, then we come from that experience. It's a group initiation, and we share it with the group. So in the heroine's journey, it's more about learning the balance between doing and being. So it's not like a shamanic journey where we go into another world. I mean, it's like that, but the import of the heroine's journey is that we're finding that balance between our outer world experience and our inner world experience, and then integrating them together.
Oh, I see. So that's pretty exciting. So it would be it becomes a completion of the process in a way. The two pieces are combined. It's a whole, is what I'm hearing. Heroine
Yeah,
and hero's
yeah.
journey.
And I really think it's really the heroine's journey is really part of our evolution right now. It's kind of where we're heading. There's been, we've done a lot of inner work and, what might be called our individuation experience. But now it's time to kind of share that in a tribe or a family or a community or artists united. That's where the real empowerment comes. Now, I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about some of these things later, but the kind of irony is that it's not only about kind of finding our tribe and expressing our truth. That when you take the heroine's journey and you look at it in drama, like in film or television or novels or plays, it's a transformational experience when the threshold guardians of the day world, which would be the kind of the masculine chauvinistic driven people in the community, when they go through a change, the big transformation happens. And so even now you can see with all the amazing kind of shifts and changes in consciousness that's happening, there's a very strong kind of conservative, ancient, holding on to the old kind of reptilian ways society. And a lot of times we're thinking, oh, we just have to get rid of them. But it doesn't. It
It
doesn't.
doesn't. There's no getting rid. There's no away. You can't throw anything away. There's no away. It just has to be
No, no, it's really what.
transmuted.
Yeah, and what Joseph Campbell called that the union of opposites. So I think part of what's happening in terms of our evolving consciousness is we're starting to learn that trying to affect change in a world that's based on opposition is never going to really work.
So duality is dated now. We can't. We have to go beyond. We have to transcend duality. Is that what you're saying?
It's really old stuff.
It's old.
It's old stuff. Yeah. But it is certainly tempting in our everyday world and in the physical world. We get a sense of duality and opposition. It's very easy to get triggered off with all of that. But one of the reasons why, when I'm working in the hero's journey or the heroine's journey, I'm not using these Jungian terms of masculine and feminine because it can get really confusing in that way. Because it's not just about men and women. These energies, these archetypal energies, are inside of all of us, and it's really our job to kind of, be the shaman and have this alchemical process where we start to kind of integrate our masculine and feminine sides.
I'm so glad that you're clarifying that. I was going to ask you to explain more because I know there's a lot of difficulty in our society, especially around masculine and feminine, and there's been such a dichotomy, and it's still there. And I see women posting things to Facebook and other places saying, cis appearing, straight white men, you're on notice now. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? You're just adding on, fuel to the duality game. So that doesn't make any sense. But what you're saying is you're talking about outer and inner. Is that the words that you choose to use?
Well, I would say the outer physical world and the inner metaphysical world. And when you start to kind of apply some of these paradigms to storytelling, what we find is that the portal between the inner world and the outer world is relationships. And so when I'm working in stories, I look at the inner world, which is basically, what is the audience going to learn when they go on this journey? And then look at the kind of relationship world of the emotional network of characters. Sometimes it's called the character web, that then leads out into the outer physical world. So I'm been kind of exploring these whole ideas, and I'm starting to realize that relationship is really the conduit between soul and physical reality.
So is there something that you can give to our viewers today about what they can take home from here, about what's the next step for us as far as using this idea and the heroine's journey to tell stories or to even navigate our own lives?
Well, I think the main thing is to really respect our inner world experience, even if our outer world is not really um, approving or validating what we're doing. And it's really important to be able to be part of groups like Artists United, where you can come as yourself and share who you are and feel that support in the group, because that is really a way to start to kind of validate our inner experience. So we all know that meditation is important, and things like yoga or qigong, all these things, are very important, because our everyday kind of mental ego chatter is really part of this outer physical world radio station that's going kind of nonstop, that's based on duality and all the dark stuff that's happening right now. So I think that being together with like-minded people who value being as much as doing, and value receiving as much as giving, value listening as much as speaking. It's going against the grain of our outer world society when it's about kind of doing and being successful and all of these kind of things, that to find your community where you can really just be together with the community and not have to be doing something all the time. And, you're running this international, brilliant organization. I'm sure that you could be doing something every wasted minute.
I could, but a lot of the time I'm learning how to slow down and just receive. So it's really a powerful metaphor. And I am someone who worships the divine in the form of the goddess. And when I did that a few years ago, it really transformed my life, because the goddess is an embodiment of those feminine qualities of receptivity, creativity, kindness, nurturance, awareness, being, all those good things. And if you can make a shift into that, it's really the antidote to the disease of our society, which creates anxiety, fear, worry, doubt, separation, and other things we have to cure.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, Tom, I thank you for bringing the good medicine on this subject, and we've only skimmed the surface. I know that there's more that we will explore together. I'd like you to come back on the show several times and go deeper in sharing more about this, but it's a very remarkable introduction to a powerful idea. I've seen your teaching on this. I'm wondering if you could share with the audience how they could learn more about what you're doing. Do you have anything coming up that they should know about, or can you share your website?
Sure, I can do both. I'm really looking forward to a presentation I'll give at the Mill Valley Film Festival on Saturday, October 13th at noon, and it's called The Heroine's Journey on Screen. And we're going to focus on a kind of hybrid genre of family drama and comedy. Like, how do you weave comedy into really serious dramas? It's really kind of my favorite form of storytelling to work with. So you can go to the Mill Valley Film Festival website to get more information on that and to get tickets. It's going to really be fun, because there'll be a lot of local filmmakers there, and so I'll use the heroine's journey approach to storytelling. I'm going to teach a workshop for a group of 6 people in Los Angeles on the heroine's journey on November 10th and 11th. There's going to be a special guest star there. I just can't announce who it is.
Ooh, it's so exciting. Is it Jane Houston? Just kidding. I don't know.
Close, but I'm not saying
close. Oh, okay, we can't go there. Okay.
Yeah, and so those are the 2 main events coming up, and you can go to my website, which is tomschlesinger.com. I think that's going to read underneath.
Say it anyway. Tom, TOMSCH.
SCHLESINGER.com. And my email is tom@tomschlesinger.com. I'm happy for anybody who's listening in, if you have questions or ideas or things like that, because this isn't kind of like a fixed approach to storytelling, or even a fixed approach to living our lives. As you know, Holly, it's like evolving in every moment. I'm happy to hear from anybody who has more questions, and I'd be delighted to come back again, Holly, because I think what we'd want to do is really start to kind of zero in on how stories function, because most of the information about storytelling is about the forms that stories take. But I really kind of follow what the architect Louis Sullivan said, that form is something that follows the function. So I think there's some very simple ways that stories function, like through dilemma, for example, that we can get into and give the listeners some kind of concrete tools to use when they're developing their stories.
That sounds wonderful, Tom. And if anybody wants to contact Tom and has any trouble finding him, you can always just email me, holly@artistsunited.net. That's Holly, Holly, at artistpluralunited.net. And I'd like to just leave you with a little bit of information about Artists United. Do visit our website at artistsunited.net. That's artistpluralunited.net. Sign up on our email list to become a free member of Artists United. We have already signed up 32,000 people as free members. Our goal is to sign up 100,000 people by the end of 2019. We are trying to create the largest network of artists in all disciplines that the world has ever seen. The purpose of doing this is that it has gone on for far too long that the most creative, aware, and engaged people in society are marginalized and work alone. That includes artists, for sure. It includes healers. It includes many, many other types of people. But Artists United is focused on uniting the artists because they are the people who have the ability to come up with the solutions that will save society and our world at a time when we need enlightened leaders more than ever. So please do join us, sign up online. There are other ways to get involved. If you'd like to be on Artists United Television, you can let us know. If you'd like to donate to support our work, you can do so by hitting the donate button on the website at artistsunited.net. We also have ways for you to get directly involved as a volunteer with our U.S. Program Committee of working artists who are volunteers developing our programs. You can also join our advisory board, international program committee, and our board of directors. There are over 25 countries represented in the Artists United Network, and if you have an idea for a country where we should have a chapter, we'd like you to let us know. So there's many ways to be involved, but it's very important to remember also that the answers all lie within ourselves, and in order to access that, we need to go within, and that's where the heroine's journey is also very helpful in helping us to find the superpowers that are lying dormant within ourselves. Tom, it was so great to hear you say this is what Artists United is about, because this is my dream. And we're seeing this happening from the inside out of the organization with our board of directors working together to help each other to identify what their own superpowers are and how they want to bring them into the work of Artists United. If we can do this on a vast level and help every person out there to find the creativity that's within and to express it, then pretty soon we will realize that there are no real problems and that there is only solution, and that this happens through our connection to each other. So with that, I want to thank you, dear Tom, for being here. It's always a pleasure. We'll look forward to having you back on Artists United Television. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we hope to see you soon. Take care.